Reddit, what's a secret your job keeps from the public? I work at a major chemical plant upriver from a major city. If it came out how old, run down, and poorly maintained literally all of the equipment that we use to make sure that hundreds of millions of gallons of contaminated water don't leak or straight up spill into the river, the EPA would shut every plant on the river down. However, the EPA is aware of how inefficient and poorly disposed all our waste products are. The plant I work for has a yearly budget dedicated to paying fines. Cheaper to just pay the fine than to fix it. Good old corporate America. Capitalism doesn't incentivize being a decent person. Olive Garden server, you can get 3 free wine samples every time you go. When I was a server, you could get as many as you wanted if you weren't an ass. And I pour heavy. I jaff. A story from a friend of mine. She went to lunch with her mother and mother's husband, both a bit snooty, at Olive Garden, and the husband ordered a glass of wine. I guess the server poured a generous glass and husband said, "Oh my dear. It's not classy to pour more than a half glass at any one time." The fantastic waitress just shrugged and said, "Sorry about that, sir. I tend to pour them like I drink them," and walked away. We bill by the hour, but no one who works in this industry monitors their time closely. Sounds like an accountant. Could be virtually anything. Though. Really. At the hospital they have secret employees who walk around to make sure doctors and nurses sanitize their hands before entering and exiting a patient's room. You'd be surprised how many don't follow protocol and end up getting written up in a day. We claim to be a leader on the technology front, but we are literally running off of Excel macros with random codes that no one knows how to understand correct without causing the entire company to crash. A lot of companies, even Fortune 500 companies, are just houses of cards. Shiny on the surface. Then you get inside and you realize how much of the organization is dependent on Excel. You learn that they are dependent on legacy systems akin to DOS. And you learn that things are constantly breaking, and the only thing keeping the whole company from imploding is people constantly fixing the things that go wrong. And the fix is just a workaround of a workaround. Most of the time all it takes for a free upgrade is being polite. My manager will literally ask us, are they being nice? Unless it's the weekend or show night. Then we literally do not have the availability. Yes. Even if it's a show that you are not personally interested in going to. For everyone asking what I do, just assume it's like this everywhere. Because it usually is. The average programmer and a guy is just better at googling things than you are. They just know the actual words to Google. Asking why the one program does the thing instead of the other thing doesn't get you a good answer. All of our videos are made by the same people. In the same building. And we just change the text logo. All of the interviews are scripted too. They literally feed the lines to the subjects. Because they don't want to pay us a fair wage or give us benefits. We also don't have to sign anything, meaning no NDA. Dodo Thrillist now this. Edit. Wow, I literally just got fired. It's not because of this post. I just think the timing is hilarious. What do you get fired for? Don't leave us hanging, please. No worries if you can't say why. It was for the post. But the company doesn't want to admit they stalk their employees' social media. The chicken bites and cooked to order. The fries look docker today not because they are extra crispy, but because the shift manager was too lazy to change the oil, which should be changed every 5 hours. The house sauce is just mayo, ketchup, paprika, and pickle brine. The sticky patch outside the bathroom might be pee. Municipal worker. We do actually work hard and care about the city, and it's hard on us when people stop cool to yell at us without getting all the facts, and we know we can't really defend ourselves. Most of the time you are aiming out a laborer who has no control over your taxes or which street is getting paved. Volunteer paramedic. When we find an old person who clearly has been with no pulse for hours, we close the doors. Shut relatives out and pretend to do something to avoid useless legal action. I need a little more info here. I'm just a bit confused. So an example would be kids, adults, come to visit grandma, find that she's not breathing, calls 911, you show up and she's been dead for 6 hours. So you take said body back to the hospital and say nothing to avoid legal action? What legal actions are you avoiding? Probably the lawsuits claiming that grandma would be alive if they had done more, even though she had been dead for 6 hours. I mean, they won't win, but you know they will try anyway. The longer I'm in engineering, the more I know that we don't get the design right so much as we just go with the best we have the moment we run out of time or budget. Your package gets thrown 5-20 feet more than 5 times in its journey to you. A lot more the further it has to be shipped. If it doesn't say fragile, it's getting chucked. You don't eat the fragile stuff? Depends on if whomever is handling the package cares or not. I always walk the fragile stuff over to its bin, but stuff always gets thrown on top of it. Receptionist, calling to reschedule you due to schedule constraints or because the doctor is suddenly traveling, usually just means they decided to take the day off on a whim and now we need to clear off the schedule. TBH, I'm okay with that because doctors have lives too. I'm not a doctor. I don't even work in healthcare. I can call in sick at my job or decide to take a day off and someone else can cover, or I can work off my phone for urgent stuff. The ice cream machine isn't broken, it just needs cleaning, which takes a long time. BK worker here. Played us like a damn fiddle. Goodwill has their own landfills for things that don't sell. Things sit on shelves for weeks with continuous price decrease. Then one last shot at selling at the outlet stores where everything is priced per LB. Also, I was just saying that cause of the title. Don't get me wrong. Their programs and community work they do is great. Your child's school report is probably word for word the same as half of their class. There's only so many ways you can say works hard but needs to focus on accuracy. My kid's current school limits the teachers to a set of stock sentences. So their report card reads like a primitive chatbot wrote it. A pleasure to have in class. That we don't recycle anything that we can't make money off of. This makes me sad. Not my industry anymore. But banks would often make decisions that were probably technically illegal about which houses to repair. If you're a regular customer who doesn't tip your delivery driver, your order is never going to be a priority. Edit, a word. Bartender here. When it comes to wine, half the time we make up what we're telling you. Oh, the Chilean cab is a bit earthier with fruity notes, whereas the California is a dry botanical. It should also be known that I work in an Irish pub and not a 5-star wine house. Wine people are the goddamn worst snobs in the world, and I will say whatever makes them stop talking to me. Edit, just remembered this. Anytime someone sends back a glass and asks me to open a fresh bottle, I pour from the exact same bottle. Has never failed, and they always smile and thank me. When we present yours and someone else's profile in front of an employer at the same time, a lot of times one of you is there to make the other look better. Teacher here. We totally talk about your children in the faculty room all the time. Sometimes they're nice comments like, oh, you have Emma? I had her last year. She's awesome. Usually they're not nice. If you get a call from a telemarketing or research call center, you need to specifically ask to be taken off the call list for them to stop calling. Don't be polite and make excuses. Don't mention that you don't have the time. Don't mention the time at all. Don't even just hang up. All of those will often have the company assume on a technicality that you could technically take the call at a later time. Just straight up ask to be taken off their call list, or put on their do not call list. You didn't hear this from me. You aren't supposed to know this, but we won the State Clean Audit Award for the 5th consecutive year and didn't notify our customers. I work at a cemetery, and I can confirm that the concrete or metal vaults that the casket goes inside of in the ground do not keep the caskets from getting wet. Actually, they do the opposite and just hold water inside. The sales team will always try to paint a nice picture in your head of what the casket vault combo will look like in the ground. And it's a complete lie. One of many lies in the cemetery funeral business. Only the crust and the sauce are homemade, all of the toppings are frozen or canned. You guys don't make your own pepperoni? I feel betrayed. Delivery driver. We add 10-15 minutes on the estimated delivery times so we seem speedy and not seem late if we're stuck in traffic. We also charge delivery fees that most people don't notice or ask about. Nice try. FBI. Not today. CIA. Noble attempt. RCMP. Starbucks drinks are not nearly as complicated as you would think or what they make you think. Do people think that espresso and milk in a cup is complicated? Lots of professors are winging their lectures and showing up to office hours really does help your chances of a good grade. Not at current company but former one. Everyone had to take additional coursework on business ethics and anti-corruption laws because a subsidiary was found bribing officials to sell the company's products. A clinical trial for Parkinson's failed because of serious adverse events, resulting in at least 3 deaths related to the product. It's now being reformulated and will go through clinical trials again as an arthritis medication. Another clinical trial failed because it was found to be toxic for Asian blood cells. They had originally tried to bypass this by excluding Asians from the trial. Just to be clear, not all pharma companies are like this. There's always a few bad apples. Not my current job, but I used to work as a front desk agent in hotels. Hotels can and do book more rooms than are available. Most systems allow sites like Expedia to book the hotel to 102%. Expedia bookings are the lowest priority. If you don't want to get bumped, book from the hotel's own website. Also be aware that at midnight, the booking system rolls over to the next day. If you need a room after midnight, call the hotel. A lot of restaurants I worked at relied majorly on microwaves. Still, large batches, pre-prepped, labeled by date and frozen in. Even if they did keep an eye on those dates, Gordon Ramsay and any other kitchen inspection program would still have a duck in cow. Hospitality culinary. They take advantage, abuse foreign interns with the promise of teaching them the trade, giving them a cultural experience. In actuality, these interns are getting tricked into cheap labor and are gonna be worked like a dog for a year. Climate science. We would get paid the same even if there was no such thing as climate change. You wouldn't have thought that was a secret. But here we are. Starbucks operates some stores in a region district intentionally on a loss in order to weed out competition. They pretend to give a shit about the community, but they are just another slimy corporation who only cares about money. Also, 7-Eleven has better coffee. I used to work at a preschool and our badges had our names on the front, but on the backside where no one could see, it said treat kids as if the parents are there, which just sounded kinda weird to me. Few months later, I was telling the lead teacher I worked with about a tantrum the other day, and she told me that's when you grab them and push them into a chair. Then a co-worker told me later that week that the lead teacher literally grabbed a 3-year-old girl and dragged her across the floor onto a chair because she wouldn't stop crying. We reported it to the head of the school, but I don't think the kid's parents ever found out. The whole school was messed up. I remember there was another kid who just plopped down onto the floor and started crying. And our boss banged on the door to let her in, yanked the kid up, and dragged him downstairs to the office. But I can't imagine she'd act that way if his mom was there. You know some of those big title MMO games from AAA rated developers? Well, don't spend too much time grinding for things with a low drop rate, because a lot of the time the developers put ridiculous cooldowns on finding those items. You know that awesome ingredient you just found after a week of grinding you needed to make that potion? Well, since you just found one, that item is now on a 30-day drop cooldown for you, and the devs are never going to communicate that publicly. Happy grinding. Chain steakhouse restaurant I used to work at for years. All these methodicas ordering a 6 ounces sirloin butterflied, well done but juicy. That order does not exist outside of very time consuming methods, slow roast, sous vide, etc. for a place putting out entrees in 12-14 minutes. That steak would be butterflied and microwaved in a shallow dish of au jus. Slapped on the grill for 30 seconds for char and Bob's your uncle. Perfectly legal. Safely cooked and all of that. But not how a steak should ever be prepared. All dog food, vast majority of trendy brands, is garbage and none of the companies care about your pet. Just the money. When animals at the pet store die, yes. They do sometimes, we put them in black trash bags and store them in a freezer until they can be picked up by the truck. This only happened like 2x a year at my store. So it built up pretty quick. I used to work for a pesticide company spraying flies on farms. Some of the poisons we used were so strong that 1 pint added to a 500-gallon tank of water and sprayed could knock flies right out of the air immediately and was just as toxic to birds. In fact, we were told if we ever accidentally spilled a bottle of the stuff on the ground we should contact the EPA to clean the mess rather than try to do it ourselves. Ironically, by fall the flies had developed such a resistance to the poison that the only way it would heal them was if you drowned them in it. Still would heal birds though. One last thing. It was an organic pesticide that could be absorbed through any unprotected skin of the human body. I worked there just 1 year because of this.